Listen, before you even blink, Tasha Kani Wobom Foda Hyjin Por Hip Hop Universe Co-Stroke Karib Pahancha Deer. Because apparently, Claressa Shields didn't just file a case against Papoose. She filed a case against his entire ecosystem, including the one thing nobody ever thought would get dragged into this mess, Remy Ma. Yes, a woman who has survived jail, beef, marriage scandals, battle rap alliances, and reality TV chaos, is now allegedly being controlled like a pawn in a storyline so messy it makes love and hip-hop look like a children's cartoon. And if you're sitting there thinking, wait, WHY with the undefeated boxing monster, the self-made millionaire, the woman who literally punches through people's souls, file a legal complaint against Mr. Alphabetical Bar's Papoose. Baby, Tasha K says you have no idea what's been happening behind those fake smiling Instagram photos because, according to her sources, the same sources who accidentally leak celebrities, dirty laundry every 3 days. This wasn't about messages. It was about control of narratives, control of careers, control of Remy Ma herself, and if that didn't make you flinch, oh honey, wait till you hear the rest. Ever since Tasha K dropped this new bombshell, the entire internet has been asking one question. What exactly pushed Claressa Shields to the point where she felt she had no choice but to take the legal route and file a complaint against Papoose? Why would a world champion boxer, a woman who silences an entire arena the moment she steps into the ring, waste her time on this cheap social media circus? Why would an athlete known for discipline, tunnel vision, and mental fortitude suddenly take a rapper's inbox behavior seriously enough to let it reach a courtroom? But then, when Tasha K said those exact words on camera, she's not just filing a complaint. She's exposing a power structure. Everything changed. That's when people realized this wasn't some random DM fiasco. This was something deeper. Something that was never supposed to come out. According to Tasha, the problem didn't start with a couple of hey big head messages. It didn't start with harmless compliments. The issue began the moment Claressa publicly ignored Papoose at an event. After that, everything escalated slowly, quietly, and strategically. First came the compliments. Then came the unnecessary late-night texts. Then came the random, casual check-ins that had no place in a married man's communication pattern. And when Claressa stayed distant and uninterested, that subtle pressure started building in the background. She reportedly told people in her training camp that the attention was making her uncomfortable, but she didn't want drama because her entire mind was set on her upcoming fight. But when the messages didn't stop, she began documenting everything, quietly, carefully, and intentionally, and that's where Tasha K walked into the story with her I told y'all energy, insisting that Claressa kept records incident by incident in case things ever spiraled out of control. Now, the real question wasn't whether the messages were innocent or not. The real question was, why did Claressa have to protect her boundaries from a man who was already in a long-term marriage? Why did it go on for so long? Even after she made it crystal clear that she wasn't entertaining anything. The whole thing got messier when Tasha claimed that Claressa wasn't the aggressor Papoose was. Claressa was simply playing self-defense in a game she never signed up to play, but the real twist entered the chat the moment Remy Ma's name appeared. Tasha said Remy was the most silent, strategic, and aware person in the entire situation. And why? Because allegedly, she already knew everything. She had two options, confront it privately or wait for the media explosion. And according to Tasha, Remy chose not to confront it. Because behind closed doors, she and Papoose were already dealing with trust issues. And the moment Claressa's name dropped into their personal atmosphere, insecurity and tension ignited instantly. And Tasha explained why, allegedly, Remy had already experienced a couple of suspicious situations in the past. Her relationship history wasn't spotless. Controversies followed her like a shadow. So, when the name of a dominant, beautiful, globally respected champion suddenly entered the mix, the alarms went off. From Claressa's point of view, she just wanted distance. Distance from Papoose. Distance from Remy. Distance from the whispers. She ignored him. She ignored the indirect shade. She focused on her fight. But as the situation kept growing into a side conversation, a back-alley whisper campaign, a private investigation, a clash of narratives, she realized something crucial. This was starting to affect her reputation. And for an athlete, reputation is branding. Reputation is income. Reputation is legacy. One wrong rumor about being involved with a married rapper could cost her sponsorships, partnerships, endorsements, fight deals, everything she worked for. Claressa isn't a typical social media personality. She is a global sports icon. Her name doesn't operate on gossip. It operates on credibility. And gossip can destroy credibility in minutes. Then the leaks arrived. And that's when the whole thing went nuclear. Tasha revealed that some anonymous sources claimed certain screenshots were intentionally circulated. But here's the twist. There was no proof Claressa leaked anything. No proof Papoose did either. But the way those screenshots spread, the timing, the cropping, the blurred timestamps, everything looked deliberate. Like someone wanted confusion. And confusion is the most dangerous weapon in the media age. Because once confusion begins, truth dies. People stop caring about facts. They care about the storyline. And storylines destroy people faster than evidence ever could. During all this chaos, Claressa maintained one thing: silence. Stone cold silence. No story posts, no tweets, no clapbacks, nothing. And why? Because, according to Tasha, her legal team told her to stay quiet. And that silence was the biggest red flag of all. Silence meant escalation. Silence meant documentation. Silence meant legal preparation. Claressa reportedly handed her lawyers a full timeline, every message, every date, every encounter. Her argument was simple: unwanted contact, boundary violation, professional disruption, and reputation damage. Meanwhile, Remy's angle was only getting darker. Insiders said Remy was furious that her name was being dragged into the storyline. Her image was already fragile, and she hated being pulled into drama she didn't create. But Tasha claimed something much more explosive: that Papoose was trying to control the narrative using Remy, that he wanted her to appear calm, supportive, and unbothered publicly so he could protect himself. And once Tasha said that, the internet combusted. Because the story was no longer about DM drama. It had become a story about manipulation, influence, ego battles, and narrative control. And allegedly, Remy stayed silent because her home life was already tense. She feared that speaking out would trigger Papoose into defensive mode and expose more cracks in their marriage. Cracks they had been hiding from the public for years, according to Tasha. The final straw, the moment Claressa decided to file the case, was when she realized the narrative was slipping out of her And she felt that if she didn't take legal action immediately, the story being pushed by people around Papoose and Remy would become the official truth. And Claressa, a woman who built her entire life on fighting, winning, and proving people wrong, refused to let a fabricated narrative destroy her credibility. She has fought promoters, fought critics, fought expectations, fought literal men in gyms, and she wasn't going to let a misinterpreted storyline become her downfall. At this point, the story had become so messy that determining who was right and who was wrong didn't matter anymore. Because the public doesn't care about right or wrong. The public only cares about scandal. And they had found their new obsession. And this is exactly where the next section begins. Right at the moment the narrative grows claws, the leaks start multiplying, and the entire game flips upside down. And this is exactly where the next section begins. Right at the moment the narrative grows claws, the leaks start multiplying, and the entire game flips upside down. Because once the screenshots started circulating with half-crop angles and missing context, the internet turned into a full-blown battlefield. People who never met Claressa, never met Papoose, never even watched a single Remy Ma interview suddenly appointed themselves judges, lawyers, and federal agents. Some were calling Claressa a homewrecker. Some were calling Papoose a midlife crisis flirt. Some were dragging Remy as if she personally hired a team of hackers to leak the messages. It didn't matter who was actually responsible. What mattered was who had the stronger storyline. And that storyline started shifting every hour. Tasha K claimed her sources saw more messages than the public did. Messages that weren't soft or subtle. Messages that allegedly crossed a line. Messages that sounded like a man trying to build emotional access where none existed. And while nobody knows if those messages even exist, Tasha insisted she had heard enough to say, this wasn't friendly. This wasn't neutral. This was intentional. And the moment she said intentional, the internet lost its mind. Because intentional means pursuit. Intentional means motive. And motive is what turns a scandal into a legal case. But the real chaos started when a private group chat leaked, a group chat allegedly containing people close to Remy, Claressa, and Papoose. Close to Remy, Claressa, and Papoose. The screenshots showed arguments about who leaked what, who confronted who, and who tried to spin which narrative. One message even read, "She's only doing this because she lost control." Nobody knew who she referred to. But everyone assumed, everyone built a theory. And every theory created a deeper level of confusion. And confusion is where reputations go to die. Meanwhile, people close to Papoose started whispering their own stories. They claimed Papoose wasn't flirting. He was networking. They claimed his late-night messages were about business opportunities, even though nobody could explain why business. Opportunities pop up at 1:47 a.m. They said he was supporting Claressa because he believed in elevating Black excellence. But then the obvious question hit, if the intentions were pure, why did Claressa feel uncomfortable? Why did she keep records? Why did her lawyers advise silence? Why did everything look defensive instead of transparent? If the situation were innocent, somebody, anybody, would have clarified the timeline. But nobody did. Remy's name kept reappearing in blogs and leaked conversations. Some insiders claimed Remy confronted Papoose privately. Others insisted she didn't. But one detail stayed consistent in every version. Remy wasn't happy. Whether she believed Papoose or not, whether she blamed Claressa or not, she hated the idea of being dragged into another narrative she had no control over. She had spent years rebuilding her image, staying out of mess, focusing on work, and suddenly, bam, another headline attaching itself to her dot. And then came the wildest twist, the one Tasha K screamed about like she had been waiting all year for it. According to her, someone in Remy's circle told her that Remy wasn't just upset about the messages. She was upset because she felt like Claressa was being weaponized against her. That somebody, maybe Papoose, maybe someone around him, wanted the narrative to make Remy look insecure, unstable, and threatened by a younger, stronger, more successful woman. Tasha said Remy felt like she was being played like a pawn in her own marriage. And that comment alone set the internet on fire. People began dissecting every public appearance Remy and Papoose ever made. Old interviews resurfaced. Old rumors resurfaced. Old relationship cracks became fresh talking points. Suddenly, everyone was analyzing body language, eye rolls, awkward laughs, subtle dodges, like digital archaeologists digging through relationship debris. And the more people dug, the more the narrative spiraled. Claressa stayed silent. That silence became louder than any statement she could have made. Silence meant she had receipts. Silence meant she wasn't panicking. Silence meant a move was coming. And when someone stays silent in a scandal that could destroy their reputation, it usually means they know something the public doesn't. Tasha insisted Claressa's team wasn't planning a small legal complaint. They were preparing a narrative correction, a full cleanup, a documentation bomb, not to destroy anyone, but to clear her name before someone else poisoned it for good. Because in the age of viral news, the first version of a story is always the one that sticks, even if it's wrong. Behind the scenes, Remy's circle allegedly panicked. They wanted her out of the storyline entirely. Some insiders claimed she was advised to distance herself publicly. Others claimed she was told to stand by her husband, no matter how it looks, and that's the problem. Every insider said something different. Nobody agreed. Nobody knew the full truth. And that's exactly what made the scandal grow. Papoose, on the other hand, tried to maintain his hip-hop gentleman image. But the leaks didn't stop. More blurred screenshots showed up online. Some real, some fake, some edited so terribly that even a 5-year-old could tell they were doctored. But by then, the damage was already done. Because once leaked messages hit the internet, people don't ask, is this real? They ask, why does this look real? The narrative grew darker when Tasha revealed that Claressa's team believed someone was intentionally spreading the edited screenshots to make her look guilty. Not guilty of flirting, but guilty of stirring drama. Guilty of being messy. Guilty of being the problem. And that's when Claressa decided enough was enough. Because being painted as the problem can destroy a woman in minutes. Especially a woman at the top of her career. Behind the scenes, both fan bases, Remy's and Claressa's, started turning against each other. People took sides. People accused each other of lying, manipulating, exaggerating. Some accused Remy of protecting a man with a wandering eye. Others accused Claressa of using the situation for attention. Others blamed Tasha, claiming she exaggerated the whole thing for clicks. It didn't matter who was right. The narrative had slipped into chaos. And chaos doesn't pick sides, and this is exactly where the next section continues, right at the point where the scandal stops being a personal conflict and becomes a public war. Where lawyers tighten their grip, where narratives get weaponized, and where everyone realizes the situation is no longer private, no longer controlled, and absolutely no longer reversible. And this is exactly where the next section continues, right at the point where the scandal stops being a personal conflict and becomes a public war. Where lawyers tighten their grip, where narratives get weaponized, and where everyone realizes the situation is no longer private, no longer controlled, and absolutely no longer reversible. Because by the time the legal notices started circulating through back channels, the blogs had already labeled Claressa as the woman who took it too far and Papoose as the victim of exaggerated misunderstandings. Meanwhile, Remy was being portrayed as the exhausted wife trapped in a storyline she didn't create. Headlines were spinning faster than anyone could respond. The narrative had grown legs, claws, and a heartbeat of its own. Tasha K claimed her sources told her that Claressa's legal team believed someone was trying to destroy her public credibility before she could fight back. That the smear campaign had already started, quietly, subtly, with perfectly timed leaks designed to make her look bitter, dramatic, jealous, unhinged. And that's exactly the danger. Because once the public labels a woman as overreacting, her truth stops mattering. Her evidence stops mattering. Her fear stops mattering. People stop listening to what she says and start focusing on how she looks saying it behind closed doors. Papoose's team allegedly tried to spin the narrative into something harmless, a simple misunderstanding, a misread tone, a friendly mentorship gone wrong. But the moment someone uses the word misunderstanding, the internet hears one thing: damage control. Because misunderstandings don't usually require lawyers, deleted posts, and late-night phone calls to PR teams. Misunderstandings don't create aggressive silence. Misunderstandings don't come with timestamps and screenshots. Somebody was lying, and the world wanted to know who. Meanwhile, Remy was reportedly balancing two battles, the one online and the one inside her home. Insiders claimed that her silence wasn't confidence. It was fear that anything she said would escalate the mess further. She allegedly felt trapped between protecting her marriage and protecting her image. Because if she defended Papoose too strongly, people would accuse her of covering up suspicious behavior. But if she stayed too quiet, they would assume she didn't believe him. It was a lose-lose situation. And every woman watching felt that. While the public went into overdrive dissecting every grainy screenshot, Claressa's camp was preparing for something bigger, a full legal counterstrike. They weren't just defending her against rumors, they were documenting who posted what, who altered what, who spread what. They were tracing usernames, metadata, timestamps. They wanted accountability. They wanted exposure. Because this wasn't just a case about boundaries anymore. This was a case about targeted narrative assassination. And Claressa wasn't going to let the internet turn her into a villain in a story she never asked to be part of. Tasha claimed there were talks behind the scenes about restraining orders, digital harassment documentation, cease and desist letters, and potential defamation claims. That someone in Claressa's circle said if she doesn't fight now, she loses everything later, and that line alone sent shockwaves through the fanbase. Because it suggested that Claressa wasn't reacting. She was protecting herself from something actively happening behind her back. Something deeper than flirting allegations. Something strategic. But the biggest shock came when Tasha revealed that there were whispers that someone in the circle was intentionally feeding the media modified screenshots to make Claressa's silence look suspicious. Someone wanted her to look like the guilty party. Someone wanted her to panic. Someone wanted her to lose control publicly so the narrative could shift to look how emotional she is, and that's the oldest trick in the book. Provoke a woman into reacting so you can use her. Reaction as your shield. Papoose, on the other hand, tried to present himself publicly as calm and unbothered. But insiders claimed he was furious behind the scenes. Furious at the leaks. Furious at the speculation. Furious at the idea that his intentions could be interpreted as anything other than professional. But again, nobody had seen the real messages except the people involved. And the public didn't care about truth. They cared about the mess. They wanted chaos. They wanted scandal. They wanted to watch a celebrity marriage crumble in real time. And the blogs were feeding that hunger like a buffet. Remy's discomfort grew into something more serious. Insiders whispered that she confronted people in her inner circle. That she wanted answers about who leaked what. That she didn't trust anyone anymore. Not friends, not associates, not people who pretended to be loyal while secretly selling stories. And that kind of paranoia can destroy a household faster than any scandal. People began claiming Remy started questioning everything. How the screenshots got out, why they surfaced when they did, who benefited from them, and why her marriage was suddenly a storyline instead of a sanctuary. Meanwhile, the internet shifted again. Fans who were initially calling Claressa dramatic suddenly switched sides after noticing the inconsistencies in the leaks. Some screenshots appeared too edited. Some timestamps didn't match. Some conversations seemed stitched together. People began questioning who had the motive to create such chaos. Why were the leaks so conveniently timed with Claressa's fight announcements? Why did every rumor benefit only one side of the story? The more people questioned, the more they realized this wasn't about flirting, it was about control. Tasha kept adding fuel to the fire by claiming there was a bigger force behind the scenes. Someone trying to silence Claressa before she exposed something they didn't want the world to know. She kept repeating that the real story hadn't even come out yet. That the complaint wasn't just about messages, it was about something tied to power, influence, manipulation, and image protection. And of course, the minute she said that, the entire internet stopped breathing, because if the case wasn't about flirting, not about insecurity, not about accidental messages, then what was it about? Some insiders speculated it had to do with money. Others speculated it had to do with reputation management. Others claimed that someone feared Claressa would reveal something personal, something that could shake a public image built over years. And that fear is what pushed the situation into legal territory. By now, the lawyers weren't just tightening their grip, they were preparing for impact. Both sides knew the story had gone too far to be fixed with a simple apology. Too much had leaked. Too much had twisted. Too much had grown beyond control. The scandal had turned into a monster, and it needed someone to blame. And monsters don't care about truth. They care about sacrifice. Remy, Papoose, and Claressa were now trapped in a spotlight none of them wanted. Every statement mattered. Every silence mattered. Every leak mattered. Every rumor mattered. And the public was watching like predators waiting for the weakest one to fall apart first. And this is exactly the point where the story stops being a rumor and transforms into a full-fledged crisis, a crisis with legal stakes, emotional casualties, broken alliances, shifting power dynamics, and irreversible consequences. A crisis that doesn't disappear when the cameras turn off. A crisis that leaves scars. So, what does this all mean for Claressa, Papoose, and Remy Ma? Are we witnessing the collapse of an image carefully curated over years? Or is this just the tip of an iceberg that the public hasn't even fully seen yet? One thing's for sure, boundaries were crossed, narratives were manipulated, and someone's reputation was on the line. And now, the question you have to ask yourself, if Claressa, a global athlete who has literally fought the world, can be pushed into legal action just to protect her truth, what does that say about power, influence, and control in celebrity culture? Who really holds the strings, and how far are they willing to go to maintain their version of reality? We've only scratched the surface here. There are leaks, whispers, and silent confrontations still bubbling under the radar, waiting to explode. And trust me, this story isn't ending quietly. Every move, every post, every deleted screenshot could be the next headline. So, if you want to stay on the front line of this scandal, the real story behind the posts, the whispers, and the manipulation, smash that like button. Drop your hot takes in the comments, and make sure you're subscribed. Because in the world of celebrity drama, the truth rarely stays hidden, and you don't want to miss what's coming next.